As part of my role as assistant manager for the Creativity Conference, which is taking up a lot of my time at the moment, and also it's coming up August 2022, Reykjavik, Iceland. If you want to come, get your tickets. Part of my role is as the host of the official conference podcast. So I get to interview all kinds of creative professionals, from Hollywood editors to choreographers, fine artists, martial artists, literally the full shebang. Today, I am fortunate enough to be interviewing one of our speakers who you may know as Thomas TomSka Ridgewell. He's an OG YouTube juggernaut, creator of one of the best known internet series, Asdfmovie, which has just gone astronomical over the past few years. Hopefully you enjoy the interview, and thanks, Tom, for joining me. Today, I am joined by Thomas TomSka Ridgewell, who is a British writer, filmmaker, and YouTube juggernaut with almost 10 million subscribers and over 2 billion views across his multiple channels. Tom, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. It's a very generous. That almost is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Almost 10 million subscribers. It's not like I'm closing that gap fast. I'm quite settled on my 7. And I'm very happy with the 7. I'd like that diamond play button. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not holding my breath.
So you've done the whole YouTube thing for going on 15 years now, and you've dabbled in other projects over the time. What are some of your current creative projects that you're working on that make you particularly excited to get out of bed and work on in the morning?
As you say, I've been doing stuff online for so long on YouTube. I mean, I started, I made my YouTube account when I was 15 years old, which most kids today would go, that's quite late. But that was, in 2006, and I've been doing it ever since. And even before that, I was posting on any website that would allow content, the early days of Web 2.0. So these days, the things that excite me are just kind of anything different. Obviously, I still love making YouTube videos. I still love posting things online. But the opportunity to do other things, I will always jump at. We made a card game, which we released in the middle of a pandemic, like a smart business person. To be fair, we didn't know the pandemic was going to happen. But, video games, board games, comic books, anything that's different. I want to try my hand at everything and do everything else at least once.
So how did the pandemic affect your overall creativity and your workflows? Did you find that it put in hurdles in place and you were creatively stifled, or did you overcome the creative challenges and find that you were overall enabled?
Like a lot of YouTubers, I was in an extremely fortunate and unique position when the pandemic hit to be pretty much unaffected. It was quite easy to transition into exclusively remote work. I mean, right now I'm sitting in my home studio, which very fortunately I set up towards the end of 2019. So there was pretty much nothing to it to keep going through the pandemic, theoretically. However, I think like a lot of other people, it did hit me like a truck creatively, and a lot of that momentum was really stifled. It was frustrating because obviously I'm looking around and I know that we could keep going, but pandemic, it just kind of made me not want to. But I still was very proud of the stuff that we did during those lockdowns. We created a few new series remotely. I feel a bit embarrassed in that I wasn't one of the first creators to trailblaze shooting things remotely. I noticed a lot of other YouTubers start very early on into the pandemic, and the audiences kind of rejected it, like they used to reject ad reads because it was different, and so everyone felt like it's going to go back to how it was very soon, so no one wanted to really consume that kind of content. So I kind of laid low for a couple months, or at least what felt like it, until audiences had fully accepted the idea of things being remote, and then came back and went, hey, I'm doing it too. Video-wise, it didn't change things at all. I think the biggest toll was mentally. I developed a lot of ADHD, or at least ADHD adjacent symptoms, and that made creativity a massive challenge. Mostly, if nothing else, because the distraction machine was now the place I had to work at. When I'm a writer, and when I write, I kind of ideally need to not be on a computer. I will sketch out everything on paper first. Every script, every joke, every structure I'll write down, and only when it's all there can I actually turn and face a computer, because the work's already done. I've just got to type it up. But now I had to talk to my team through a webcam, and mentally I processed them as distractions. So they were no different to watching a vlog almost, and it made it very difficult to think straight and focus on work, which was not great. So I was very glad when I could see people again and work somewhat how I used to.
Yes, and there's a lot can be said about a creatively stimulating environment, and people spend lots of time and money on buying big fancy studios and making it so it's the most, creatively efficient way to just get things done. How do you feel about that with your home studio and obviously your office where you shoot a lot of things? Do you really find that your environment has to be this really conducive place, or can you sort of create anywhere?
I have found that with spaces that I find creative, they have a shelf life. Maybe it's a year or 2 years where I'm in this new space and suddenly I just feel re-energized and I'm powering through, and then maybe I'll hit this 18-month 2-year mark where the space no longer becomes associated with the creativity. I don't want that. I don't know what that's about, but that's what happened with my office before this one, and every office before it. So yeah, just it has a window of value, and then it becomes a cripplingly almost toxic environment, and I will suddenly feel the need to move somewhere else, as if I've extracted every creative idea that could be had within this space. I don't know if that's normal. I'm not convinced. But because I've definitely always found a lot of inspiration from being out and about. A lot of the jokes that we come up with, or the ones I come up with when I'm alone, happen when I'm traveling, when I'm on public transport or out and about. And so we had a year where that didn't happen, and I noticed such a significant drop in productivity and idea generation, which was very strange.
And idea generation is something that is key to creativity, and with a lot of the projects that you do. We'll briefly touch on your Asdfmovie series now, just to get that out the way, and then we can talk about other things, because I'm sure you never get tired of talking about Asdfmovie. You've said that you went into the first Asdfmovie in 2008 intending to create the next big viral video, and sure enough, it became a pretty much instant success from day one, and each subsequent episode has been fairly guaranteed a couple million views at least. How do you keep it engaging and refreshing from a creative standpoint, and combating the algorithm and audience changes over the 14 years that you've been making them?
I think I would answer that question very differently every year, prior. I think right now I'm kind of in a state with that series where I might just answer I don't. I think that I do feel like that series may have actually officially passed its sell-by within the audience, in that the competition is now so fierce that the novelty of something like Asdfmovie, which did bring sort of a unique brand of entertainment that was sort of out of time, even at the point I started posting on YouTube. It's this sort of 2000 mid 2000s kind of lol random humor, but with a very internety viral video, early YouTube pacing, and it was this kind of unique novelty holdover from this different era that had a sort of stranglehold on that style of humor for so many years. But now with the rise of things like TikTok, there's that, like I said, the competition is so fierce, and it no longer holds this unique place. So the truth is, I kind of I mean, I don't really keep it fresh. I just try to make jokes that I think are funny and feel consistent. I want to make jokes that feel like they would have come out, at that same era. I'm always asking myself, what would I have laughed at when I was 15 years old? And I'll just keep doing that as long as I think there are people that are going to laugh at it, really.
Well, in a way, Asdfmovie was sort of a forerunner of short form content, because it is short form and it's very clip focused. So it's almost a Vine or a TikTok before they even existed.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and so when Vine dropped, and that was at the time only about 5 years after I started doing the series, I realized, hey, this is the same energy. I should really get on posting these on Vine as well. And then I realized I didn't want to, because YouTube had ads and Vine didn't. So just no foresight, really, just purely monetarily driven. But yeah, so it was that same kind of vibe, and that was the beginning of the end, I guess, in a way, of audiences figuring out they can make their own, and which is good. I think that's a good thing. I didn't like being the only person doing that style of comedy anyway.
And almost 14 years after the very first one, could you have ever foreseen the immense success that the Muffin Time Asdfmovie spin-off song ended up becoming, as this 250 million view chart topping viral hit?
No, I like you said when we first started talking about Asdfmovie, I did go into it hoping to make a viral. I was applying the things I'd learned, growing up watching all of the earlier internet content, and said, okay, I think I've figured out what would work. I'm going to try this, and it worked. I will say that was intentional. The Muffin song, no, I had no idea that was going to happen, and that was purely just the random chaos of Gen Z and TikTok. The song came out, it got, say, 30 million views, which was great. Which was on par with the other, say, 5 songs we'd done before it, and the song itself was a send off as well. I made that music video to be like, okay, that was the show. I think I'm done now, because I was looking at the metrics, the analytics, and I was seeing that I felt like my time on YouTube was coming to a close, and I didn't want to drag things out and become one of these people that's desperately trying to cling on to what they had. I kind of wanted to call it at a time I was comfortable with, and I did make that kind of series to that music video to say, all right, I think I'm kind of done. And then it became the single most viral thing I've ever made by a huge margin, and I couldn't stop. I got dragged right back in, and I made more. I made some more Asdfmovies, and it completely just kept me afloat and revitalized everything, which was lovely. But we came to Asdfmovie 13, and we made that, and I made that kind of quietly, knowing that I wanted that to be my last one. I was done. Every Asdfmovie I made to try and prove something to myself. The first one was, can I make a viral video? The second one was, can I do it again? And each one it would be, okay, well, can I bring in celebrity guest voices, or can I make a new triplet gag that people will really like? I was often posing myself a challenge with each one, and the ultimate goal was, can I make it to 10? And the answer was yes. And then I was done, and then it was like, okay, we'll go to 13 because that's a fun number. And then I felt like I was finished, and I was, and I decided I'd never announce it because I'm not stupid. I don't want my audience to go, oh, okay, thanks for the YouTube channel, and then mass unsubscribe. But I had decided that I was finished. And then I made Asdfmovie 14. Because a mobile game app said money, and I went, yeah, go on then. And so I did that as well. And the truth is, I'll make a 15 if that happens again. If a brand comes along and says, "Can you make another one?" I do it again. But it's no longer a series that I feel a need to make to prove anything to myself. I have now proved everything that I need to prove.
Well, dovetailing from that is, as someone who's continued to stack views across platforms and, navigating algorithms for pretty much the entire duration of YouTube's history, how do you perceive the viral video formula to have evolved over time, briefly?
Viral video has evolved and shaped so many different ways. I mean, I think the first state the viral video found itself in was that of seemingly complete unpredictability, just absolute random chaos. It would be anything. Is it going to be some chubby guy swinging around a pole and then people start editing Star Wars music onto it and stuff? Or is it going to be a VHS upload of a long dead cat pretending to play the piano? And it was always kind of these random novelties. And then obviously this whole economy sprung up of people trying to crack the code and make viral videos. One which I was thrilled to be a part of. And there became this sort of arms race to improve, to kind of catch up with traditional media, for one thing. So there was this kind of period from, around about 2011, 2012, where the goal, I think, on YouTube was to create really high production value content that was almost indistinguishable from traditional media. And then Vine came along, and suddenly we went back 7-8 years to, shot, reverse shot, filming yourself, wearing a mop and pretending that's a wig style comedy. And audiences and a lot of creators kind of went, actually, no, you're right. This is better. It is better to kind of make content that feels far more relatable and achievable. And then suddenly these became more the new virals. And TikTok, I feel like, largely is a continuation of that as well, of just making stuff that feels not so much like a novelty. It's not a freak show, I guess. Like, I think that's the main evolution of viral video, is it went from being, a P.T. Barnum style freak show, what's the latest weird thing the internet has to offer, and is now evolved into what's the funniest thing that me and my friends believably could have made. I think there's so many different facets of it, but that's the goal, is everyone wants to make something that a teen could have made. Every brand, every adult, and every teen is just trying to make the next big teen meme. Saying teen meme out loud felt gross, and I don't like it.
Yeah. I was going to ask, where do you see the next viral video trend going? But I imagine that if you knew that, you'd already be on it.
And it's not. I actually wouldn't. I kind of haven't been one to adapt. I've watched, in the early days of YouTube, I watched far too many of my peers lose their relevance and kind of die within the space, trying to constantly adapt and shift their whole ethos over to whatever the current thing the YouTube or the internet was saying was popular. In 2011, 2012, YouTube suddenly said, we want 25 minutes of content uploaded to your channel every week. And I watched so many creators completely burn themselves out trying to meet that quota. And now, sort of last year and the year before, YouTube said, actually, we want to rival TikTok. So if you aren't releasing videos that are less than 60 seconds, die. And then people make that shift again. And the thing is, it will shift to something else down the line. So I've kind of always taken this approach of just not doing that. I'm just going to keep just trying to make the things that I want to make and remain stable. That's, I guess, the thing I kind of offer people is you come watch a video on my channel, you watch a comedy sketch, and it's not going to feel radically different from the kind of comedy sketch I would have made 10 or even more years ago. I think I'm just an old man, really. Just resilient to change, but not bitterly so. Just, it's exhausting. It seems exhausting to try and adapt constantly. Yeah,
and I think online years are a bit like dog years in that they age you much faster than normal life.
I went to an event last year, Just kind of what I thought was a YouTube event. It was an event we have in England called Summer in the City, which started as a very early YouTube convention in the in the noughties, late noughties, and it happened for the first time in 2 years, obviously because of the pandemic, and it was surreal stepping into it because none of the old guard were there, and it was almost exclusively people who had started making videos during the pandemic. Whole new, not just audience and demographic, but economy. Just a different crowd of creators. And it was so strange seeing these people that were both so young. They had all the hallmarks of a young and new creator, but they had the numbers and the viewing figures of creators that had been in the game for a decade. And it was baffling and overwhelming, and I couldn't help but think that these people aren't going to get the time to figure out how to develop staying power. They're not going to have the time to build a brand and a presence, and they're just going to burn hard and fast. They're going to show up, be really popular, and then be gone within a year. And that's the real challenge that we have on YouTube, is being a presence that sticks around. And I did wonder at this event how many of these people that are here this year will be here the next year.
Yeah.
10 million followers or not.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because traditional media formats, you get into the photography industry, you can do that for 25 years and that can just be your day job, and there's no fading into irrelevancy as such. Whereas this is such a unique career in that you could be just raking it in, and then a month later no one knows who you are.
It's bizarre. The turnover, I think, is, I guess, to answer your question again about what's different about virals now, is I think it's the turnover. You if I said name me a meme, like an older meme, you'll be able to bring a few dozen to mind. The particular lolcats or early days viral videos, Chocolate Rain, Tay Zonday, that kind of stuff. And at the time when these happened, they were so monumental. Like, you'd have a couple a year, it felt like, and they just became like what you'd call like an instant classic. And even with something like Vine, you get these Vine compilations, and as the years went on after Vine, it kind of got whittled down to say like 100, 200 of the funniest videos. But with TikTok, which I think is the kind of bastion of creativity, this is where it's all happening right now, at least in the online video space. It's not like that. Memes, trends pop up, dominate the landscape, and then disappear within a week, sometimes within 24 hours. And then they don't just simmer down and become, oh, do you remember that? They're gone. They're gone, like they never existed. And that's wild to me. Is that turnover and the speed, and how by the time Jimmy Fallon is on late night American TV quoting it's been dead for a month already. Whereas back in the day, a meme would happen. David would go to the dentist and he'd start screaming in his car, and then he'd be on late night news while it was still the hot meme, even if it had only come out a month or two ago. It was still the thing. Yeah, I'm over. Change scary.
Yeah.
To be articulate.
Yes. And moving away for a little bit from YouTube and social media, you've not just worked on YouTube in your career. You've done some comedy shorts for the BBC. You created a admittedly fairly short-lived mobile game. Authored a couple of books, and have recently had a bit more, considerable success with your Kickstarter for Muffin Time, the card game. What was a particularly challenging aspect of creatively when it came to exploring these new mediums, particularly a physical, tangible product of a card game?
there's this episode of The Simpsons basically where, to summarize, Homer finds out that he has, I think, like a half brother who works in car manufacturing, and his brother's like, "Oh, I love you. You should design your own car." And Homer approaches this project, and he puts absolutely everything that he loves in it. You know, he just really goes overboard, and they reveal the product, and this car is horrendous. It is over encumbered. I think the company goes out of business, and it ruins just everyone's lives. That is the thing I'm always worried about when I approach something new, be it a mobile app game, a book, a card game, is pulling a Homer in reference to that episode of The Simpsons, because that's what I'll always try to do. I'll get so excited with this new medium and my naivety towards it that I will just want to do everything. And that, I mean, the card game we released, even the Kickstarter was successful and the game is a lot of fun, but that is what the game is it's just, I just threw everything at a game to see what stuck, and approached it with the idea of, oh, we're gonna make a card game with 200 cards, and every card does something wildly different and changes the rules, and is very wild and wacky, and could, if I hadn't shown the restraint that I did, could have made something disastrous, could have made a disastrous mess that broke every rule within that medium's book, and that's the challenge, is controlling yourself, consulting people that know better, and compromising. It's very rare that when I'm forced to compromise, we don't end up coming up with something ultimately better. So when we say, again, approach that game and I said I want to make 200 unique and crazy cards, that was the easy part. Coming up with those 200 cards was the easy part. The hard bit was the year that followed to make that work, and to now take what we'd done and dial it back and contain ourselves. And that was the same that happened when we approached our short-lived video game, where obviously I wanted to add everything to it, but then we had to limit ourselves to what was realistic and what would be feasible within that medium. And the same happened with one of the books that I made, and that one isn't a success story. I didn't understand the medium, and I wanted to make something that was two very contrasting things, which was like an adult kind of gory comedy, but also a kid's rhyming picture book. And I wanted to marry those two ideas, and I think it would have been bold if it had worked, but it just didn't. And I made something that just didn't do very well. And so that's an example of approaching it, wanting to make this uncompromising thing, but not really understanding the medium and failing. So to answer your question, the same way repeatedly in a really rambling way, that the challenge is controlling myself.
There's a lot of roadblocks along the way that everybody encounters in all industries, and in response to creative roadblocks, you previously said in talks that you try and see the world as this sort of utopian kitchen where all possible ingredients are laid out before you, each with their own sort of potential to unstick you and take you in this new sort of direction and add another flair. Can you elaborate on that analogy at all?
Wow, the creativity kitchen. That's a talk I haven't given in about 10 years. Well, so my theory there was essentially that we all have access to things, and it's all just about utilizing what we have access to in creative ways. Because I think that I guess that's another example of what I talked about before, when you want to approach things and just immediately do the biggest, best thing you can with all the things you love, but you've got to look realistically at what is available to you and make the most of that. Have the maximum impact with the least resources, money, whatever, even ability. I want to make cartoons, but I'm not an animator, so how do I work around that? And that's how something like Asdfmovie came about, where it was incredibly simplistic and I could work with other people on it. Yeah, basically, I
get what you mean. Is there anything, you've given a lot of interviews on TV and stuff. Is there anything that gets under your skin a little bit when you see these people in traditional media talking about things like YouTube and social media, when they clearly have no understanding of the platforms.
Well, they used to be, absolutely. I mean, you jump back 10 or more years ago, and yeah, every news report on online video was from his bedroom in London, this guy makes how much a month? And it was just this ridiculously condescending media that was obviously made for the people watching traditional news, which is an older demographic. But you know, slowly but surely that shifted, if not due to just public awareness raising of online video, but I guess just, you know, audiences aging up and it becoming kind of a no-duh, like, yeah, we know that YouTube exists. The people, we're 40 years old, you know, we're not 80. So I haven't found too much of that lately, to be honest. I think obviously there's still always going to be your kind of, you know, late night talk show novelties of the latest damn Daniel kind of trend, but maybe I'm just not getting interviewed that often to kind of notice it. But I mean, I know that news reporter in England, Ainsley Harriott, once told me, "Good luck with your little YouTube thing," which was great. So I said, "Good luck with the news thing. I hope it takes off." So, you know, the last time I got interviewed was pretty condescending, and that was only about 3 or 4 years ago. So maybe it hasn't got that much better. Yeah, I think I'm just not doing as many interviews these days. But I'm also not, you know, the young, cool novelty to wheel out that I used to be. So that would make sense. If you want someone really jaded to come out, I'm your guy. Because I think that's the thing, is that I am quite weathered and jaded. I try not to be spiteful. I really don't want to be bitter. And if anything I've said has come across as bitter, it doesn't mean to be. That's something that I really just have no interest in being, because it gains nothing. But all the romance and a lot of the kind of excitement of this world, it's not that it's gone, it's just that I've experienced it. And kind of like anything that gives you a boost of serotonin or anything, it's now, that's the level that I'm kind of used to. So it's hard for me to be like, yeah, and then it's great and it's really cool and it's really exciting and stuff. I'm more someone that's I'd rather in my life now be someone that could help other people when they're going through that state of being younger and more excited, and help them optimize and not make bad decisions, basically, and keep their momentum going.
Of all the projects that you've worked on, are there any in particular that are lesser known about or underappreciated in your books that you have a bit of a soft spot for, and that you wish more people knew about? And when people come up to you on the street and they say anything other than basically Asdfmovie, you're like, no way, that's really exciting that you know about that.
See, again, if I were younger, I would approach that answer very differently, because I would talk about, you know, yeah, what I felt like is underrated and stuff. But now I do look at it, it's like, well, it was rated how it was rated. It got the views I guess it deserved. It's quite rare that if something doesn't do well, instead of going, oh, that should have done better, I kind of think, okay, what could I have done to make that better? And the answer is sometimes nothing. It just, you know, is not the kind of thing that's going to do very well. But I think it's just a lot of the stuff that I've done on my secondary channels on YouTube. That's where I have the most fun. I mean, last year I posted, I think, 4 videos to my main YouTube channel, the one with 7 million subscribers. Just like 4 videos. Nothing. Pitiful amount. On my secondary channel, however, I posted something somewhere close to about 20 or more. And that's because I was having fun there. Because that pressure isn't on. You know, that channel's only got about 1 million subscribers. Therefore, the pressure that has amassed with my main channel isn't there. So I'm still having fun. I'll be more creative and I'll be more excited. I'm not trying to make a product that is going to make my career and help me pay off my mortgage on that channel. I'm just trying to make something that people are going to want to watch and that is fun. So I guess that's the answer, really, is just anything that isn't on my primary YouTube channel.
Right.
Yeah.
And outside of your YouTube and everything else that you do, when you're unwinding and you're doing things outside of work, what are some of your favorite creative outlets that keep you fulfilled creatively?
There's no good way to answer this question. I think capitalism has rotted my brain to the point where I don't have any creative hobbies. Because if I do something creative, I need to be doing it in a way that is profitable. It needs to be something that I'm succeeding at. That's the mentality that I'm so stuck in with kind of the world of online content creation. So I did this series last year called Tryhards, wherein each week me and my friends would try new things, and I kind of did that to creatively force myself to be creative in a really roundabout, complex way. It was easier for me to make an entire series so that I would paint something than it was for me to just to paint something for fun. And when I painted something for the video, had a great time. And all the comments were like, wow, you were so good, and it really seemed like you enjoyed that. And I really did enjoy it. Have I painted since? No, because it was for the video. What is this brain rot? That's something that, if anyone wants to know, that's something that you should try to not do, is get stuck in that habit. I mean, that's why I don't stream video games, is because it's the only thing that I do for myself still is play video games. And I'd never want to stream a video game beyond the odd charity event, because otherwise I know that I will get stuck in that mindset where if I play a video game and I'm having fun, I will immediately think I should be streaming this. I am wasting content. I am wasting potential revenue. That's the last bastion. That's the last thing that I still do for myself. And the brainworms have gotten me, basically. That's the damn truth.
Well, some previous speakers have said, walking your dogs in nature. I know you've got Squidge and Pink and as your dogs, and just something about getting out into nature and appreciating that can be hugely creatively stimulating and fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should walk them more. I really should. and not just because I need to vlog things.
Right. Well, we're running close to our time here, so I'll wrap up with one more question, and it's one that I ask everybody at the end of each podcast episode. An easy one to answer, a bit of an ambiguous and broad one to answer concisely, at least. But it is simply, as a creative, what does creativity mean to you?
I mean, come on, the tone that I approach these things with now. It's kind of like, what answer do you want? I mean, do you want the kind of idealistic answer? Do you want the answer I would have given when I was younger? Or do you want the one now, where I've been doing this for too long, and the answer, because the answer right now would be something closer to creativity means making stuff that can pay off your mortgage, which is horrendous. What a horrible thing to say. It is creativity. Creativity is taking a skill and an ability you have and bleeding it dry for monetary value. Dance monkey dance. Is, I could say that, and I don't really believe it. Kind of. But it is to a degree a reality. But when I was younger, I would say that creativity is just using the resources and abilities that you have, or gaining new ones, to make things and have fun and express yourself, and just spreading joy right up until the moment that you figure out a way to make money off that, and then you go to the other thing. You go the other way. I don't want to be like this. I really don't. Yeah, it's not good, is it? It's not a good place to be in. Creativity is something you shouldn't make money off. I think it should be a hobby, it should be a release, it should be a way of you express yourself and you create things that you're proud of and that you fill with love, and then you share them with your friends and family and no one else, and you keep it pure. Because if you start making money off it, I think you end up on a track where it becomes an obligation and it becomes stressful and it becomes like every other job a job. There's this phrase that, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that is so demonstrably false. The truth is, if you love what you do, you will work every day to breaking point, because you will never log off. You will never stop focusing on what you should be doing. Because you love doing it. It's your obsession. It's your whole life, and it's your whole identity. If you hate what you do, then you can just do it for your allotted period of work and then log off and go home and not think about it. But if you love what you do, that's your whole life, your whole personality, and it will be so dominating. You will work more than anyone else. So it's not a true statement. It's still great. It's still great to do what you love, but it ain't no work. You turn the thing you love into work. God help us all.
And striking a middle ground in there, a nice happy medium, is sort of the holy grail, but very difficult to achieve for many.
I think the secret would be to have a steady income elsewhere that also allows you to have time to put time and love into things that make you creatively fulfilled. I think that's how you'd strike that balance, and maybe have that separation. But rich parents, that would be great. If you have those, they can just pay for the mortgage, and then you can do creative stuff and have a great time. So that's the secret.
If there's anything you should learn and take away from this podcast, it's get yourself some rich parents.
There you go. And if you don't have any, steal someone else's.
Yeah. Or marry into a rich family.
As a baby, swap yourself and another baby in the crib.
Yeah.
In the hospital. You'll figure it out. You'll get there.
Shout out to all the babies listening. Thanks.
They are coming. That is the demo of this event, right?
Yeah. We're catering only to 2 and 3 year olds. So.
Oh wow.
For that.
Okay.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And it's going to be wonderful to see you in Iceland for the in-person creativity conference in Reykjavik, which...
It'll be interesting, won't it? It's going to be... Yeah. I think I'm going to have to lean into this with the talk I give. I think I can do nothing if not give something honest. And yeah. So maybe I'll just walk up there and just be like, hello, this is a cautionary tale. All this.
Well, hopefully we'll see some of you who've tuned in from home there. Tickets are on sale. Go buy some if you're interested in seeing Tom and many other world-class creatives give a little talk in Iceland.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Have you been to Iceland before?
I haven't, so this is a new one. This is a very new one for me.
It's unreal. It's not like anywhere else on Earth. So bring a camera.
Who are the pictures for? They're not for me anymore. They're for Instagram now.
Maybe don't bring anything. Bring no technology at all and see if it could be a real detox.
I'm going nomad style. Let's do that.
Sweet. Well, I'll see you there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me, Tom. And I'll see you in Iceland.
See you around.
Hopefully you enjoyed that interview. Thank you for listening. If you watched the whole thing through, it was an absolute honor and a privilege to get to chat to TomSka for about an hour. Make sure to check out the interview I did with Dan Mace recently as well, another one of my all-time favorite filmmakers / YouTubers. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.